At the birthday banquet of Marchioness Dingnan, the heir apparent Shixian was caught fooling around with a woman. Shixian knelt down in public to beg for forgiveness. Mother Wanwan and I are about to get engaged. We did this wrong thing because we are in love with each other. I beg you to grant us your blessing and go to the Grand Tutor's mansion to propose marriage for me. With just one sentence, he branded me a slut and ruined my reputation in the capital. Everyone spread the rumor that the legitimate daughter of the Grand Tutor had lost her virginity before marriage, fornicating with the heir apparent of Dingnan in public. No matter how I tried to explain that I hadn't even gone to the Marquise's mansion that day, no one believed me. I was condemned by everyone, and unable to bear the humiliation. I drank poisoned wine and took my own life. Zizian lit a stick of incense before my memorial tablet. Wanwan, you can only blame the fact that the Grand Tutor's mansion was in marriage talks with the Marquise's mansion. I could only use you as a shield. Yuluo is of humble birth. If people found out she and I had a private rendezvous and became intimate, how could she possibly survive? I didn't expect you to be so petty, killing yourself over a few pieces of gossip. Just consider it me and Yuluo wronging you. If there is a next life, I will definitely compensate you. Jixian gave his beloved a new identity and married her into the Marquise's mansion, living a happy and complete life with his beautiful wife and young child, while my parents' hair turned white overnight because of what happened to me, and they both passed away from illness within a few years. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of Marchioness Dingnan's birthday banquet. Oh my God, I heard the heir apparent of Dingnan was in a back courtyard room engaging in illicit acts with a woman and was caught by a maid who was delivering tea. No way, how could they do this at the Marquise's birthday banquet? What kind of woman is so shameless? She is utterly lewd. Upon hearing this, the various madams and young ladies who had come to offer birthday wishes all headed towards the rear courtyard. The door to the side room was open. The Marquise of Dingnan stood outside the door with an ashen face, accompanied by two other madams she was usually close with. That woman was naked, held tightly in the arms of the Marquis of Dingnan's heir, Jixian. She was trembling slightly, her bare back showing faint purple, ambiguous marks. Anyone with eyes could see what had happened. Jixian held her tightly and said loudly, "Mother, it is all my fault. It has nothing to do with Wanwan. Wanwan and I are about to be engaged. We did this wrong thing because we are in love. I beg you to grant us your blessing, Wanwan. Don't be afraid. We were going to be engaged anyway. I'll go to the Grand Tutor's residence tomorrow to propose." As soon as he finished speaking, the madams and young ladies watching the spectacle outside were all stunned. No way, it is actually Shen Wan. She is the Grand Tutor's legitimate daughter. Oh my God, the Grand Tutor's legitimate daughter actually did such a shameless thing. What a disgrace. Does the Grand Tutor still have the face to see people raising such a shameless daughter? Shen Wan is a well-bred lady even the Empress has praised. Isn't this a slap in Her Majesty the Empress's face? She had the audacity to do such a thing. How can she not have the face to come out and see people? Everyone was in the middle of cursing. I stood at the back of the crowd and tiptoed to watch the commotion, asking curiously, "What is everyone gathered here for?" The crowd turned their heads and screamed out loud. "Wanwan, what are you doing here? Aren't you in bed?" "You are here then. Who is that in the bed?" The crowd pointed at the woman in Shixian's arms. He looked up. Shixian's expression changed drastically. He never would have thought that I, who replied yesterday that I couldn't attend the birthday banquet due to a cold, would now be standing perfectly fine in front of him. In my past life, I wasn't at the scene and was sick for several days, completely unaware of what happened at the Marquis Dingnan's estate. By the time I found out, Shixian had already spread the matter all over the city, and I couldn't clear my name even if I jumped into the Yellow River. I made a special trip to the birthday banquet just for this moment, to expose his true colors in front of everyone, and see how he could possibly argue his way out of it. Looking at the scene inside the room, my face turned deathly pale, and I exclaimed, "Heir apparent, what are you doing? Who is this woman?" Princess Zhao Yang, who was standing to the side, laughed mockingly. "Heir apparent, she just said that the person in his arms is you, also named Shen Wan. and even said he was going to the Grand Tutor's estate to propose marriage. I took a step forward and pointed at the woman. Her name is also Shenwan. Heir apparent. What is the meaning of this? Why are you slandering me in front of everyone? How important a woman's reputation is, does the heir apparent not know? If I hadn't shown up today, wouldn't I have been labeled a harlot? I don't know what Wanwan did to offend the prince, that he would try to harm me like this. The Madam of Marquis Dingnan's face was grim, and Shixian stammered in explanation. Wanwan, didn't you say you were feeling unwell and wouldn't be coming to the birthday banquet? I said loudly. So you knew I couldn't come, and deliberately chose today to tarnish my reputation. Who is she? And why would she slander me like this? You conspired with her, calling my name in front of everyone. What exactly is your intention? If Princess Zhao Yang hadn't specifically come to my home to invite me today, I am afraid my reputation would have already been ruined. Xian looked flustered. No, that is not it, Wanwan. I just said your name casually. I didn't mean it with tears in my eyes. I turned to look at the Madam of Marquis Dingnan. Madam, you've watched Wanwan grow up since she was little. Please seek justice for Wanwan. Wanwan's parents went to Jiangyan to visit my maternal grandfather and have not yet returned. So right now, there are no elders to back Wanwan up. Auntie of the Xia family, for my mother's sake, please help Wanwan. After speaking, I pitifully made a move to kneel. The madams hurriedly helped me up. Wanwan, don't worry. Even though your mother isn't here, we are all your elders, and we will definitely seek justice for you. Madame Wei Guo Gong was the most imposing Madame Ding Nanhu. Her son has done such a thing. Shouldn't the house of Ding Nanhu give an explanation? To have an illicit affair at his own mother's birthday banquet is one thing, but to also slander a girl's reputation, how could he be so vicious? Just what for? Princess Zhao Yang said loudly, Wanwan, don't be afraid. I will go to the palace later to have a word with Her Majesty, the Empress. I will surely get justice for you. What a shameless adulterous couple. Lady Dingnan was already dripping with cold sweat. She took a step forward and grabbed my hand. Good child, you've really been wronged today. It is all Xian's fault. I'll definitely make him apologize properly to you. He must have had his heart blinded by lard to do such a thing for a vixen. Xian must have been seduced by someone. He has admired you since childhood. He would never do something like this. As she spoke, she turned her head away. Summono, drag this vixen out and beat her to death for me. As soon as the voice fell, a coarse maidservant came forward to drag that woman away. The woman let out a sharp scream and was dragged to the ground, her clothes half off, revealing her face. It was surprisingly Xiaxian's cousin, a distant niece of the Marquis of Dingnan, Yuluo. Yuluo screamed and fell to the ground, crying out pitifully, Cousin, save me. Then, without caring about anything else, she crawled on her knees straight to Madam of the Marquis Dingnan. Aunt, save me. I didn't seduce my cousin. My cousin and I are in love with each other. I beg you, Aunt, let me serve my cousin. Yuluo doesn't seek any title, even as a servant or a maid. Yuluo is willing. Madam of the Marquis Dingnan was furious and exasperated. Don't call me Aunt. You are just a very distant relative from my maiden family. I took pity on you because both your parents died and took you into our residence. Yet you do such a shameless thing. After saying that, she gave her a fierce slap with a PA sound. From now on, I have no relative like you. Shixian hurriedly came forward to plead. Mother, Yuluo has long been homeless. If we drive her away, where else can she go? It is all my fault. I drank too much and couldn't control myself. I beg you, Mother, to agree. Letting her be a concubine is fine too. Madam of the Marquis Dingnan glanced at me, just held my hand and said, Wanwan, from now on, you are the matriarch of the Marquis's residence. So this matter is for you to decide. If you cannot tolerate her, I will immediately send people to throw her out. If you have a compassionate heart and are willing to give her a place to stay, we will naturally all listen to you. I sneered in my heart. What a great way to shift the blame. The Marquis's residence wants to push everything onto me. They're dreaming. In my past life, these two adulterers slept together. Yet they pinned all the blame on me, forcing me to die to prove my innocence, while they lived happily ever after. This time, I'll make them pay their blood debt with blood. I gently pulled back my hand and took a step back. Madam, please be careful with your words. I have nothing to do with the Marquise's estate. So where does this talk of being the mistress come from? Since Miss Yuluo is the heir's cousin, the Marchioness's niece, and has had skin-to-skin intimacy with the heir, whether she stays or goes is naturally for you to decide, or for the future heir's wife to decide. Wanwan is just a guest who came to the estate for a banquet. How could I overstep my bounds? Ixien got anxious, took a step forward and said, Wanwan, it was my bad for calling your name so casually just now. I was in a total panic, thinking that we're about to get engaged, so it wouldn't be a big deal, even if everyone found out. Anyway, I am definitely going to marry you, but Yuluo is different. She is an orphan girl with no one to rely on. If her reputation is damaged, how is she supposed to live? Before he could finish speaking, I walked up and gave him a hard slap across his face. Your cousin's reputation is important, so my reputation doesn't matter. My Shen family is the Grand Tutor's mansion, and gossip is a fearful thing. For the heir apparent to slander my reputation like this, are you trying to force me to my death? Besides, when did the Grand Tutor's mansion ever get engaged to the mansion of the Marquis of Dingnan? I have never said I would marry you, and our parents haven't even had a verbal agreement. You people are rushing to claim this marriage, and you still dare to frame me, just because I replied yesterday saying I was unwell and couldn't attend the birthday banquet. You knew I wouldn't come, so you put on this show in front of everyone. You people from the Marquis Dingnan's mansion are trying to hound me to death. When my father returns to the capital, he will surely come to seek justice for me. After saying that, I turned to leave. The madams watching from the side, what was there not to understand, had already started discussing. The heir apparent is really something fooling around with his cousin, and when he got caught, he used Wanwan as a scapegoat. Shen Wan is so unlucky to be targeted by a family like this. Luckily, Wanwan came with the commandery princess. Otherwise, once this birthday banquet is over, wouldn't her reputation be completely ruined? The Duchess of Wei hurriedly grabbed me, and I went with her motion and threw myself into her arms, crying heartbrokenly. Madam, if the commandery princess hadn't come to my home to invite me, I am afraid Wanwan would have had no choice but to die. For the heir apparent to dare to pin such a slanderous accusation on Wanwan's head, isn't he just bullying me because my parents aren't here? Zian looked flustered, his tone carrying a hint of pleading Wanwan. Our two families are on good terms, and our marriage was just a window paper waiting to be pierced. I was wrong about this, but how could I drive you to your death? It is precisely because I am going to marry you that I came up with this idea in a panic. Although you've been wronged a bit, we're going to get married in the end anyway. I will be responsible for you if you make such a scene now. What is Yuluo supposed to do? I cut him off sharply. You were having an illicit affair with your cousin in secret, yet you used my name as a cover, and you still have the nerve to question me. Let me tell you today, our Grand Tutor's mansion will absolutely never be joined by marriage to a filthy family like yours. Stop flattering yourself. Lady Dingnan's expression changed, and her tone turned cold. Wanwan, how can a matter like marriage be decided by an unmarried girl like yourself? She put on the airs of an elder, as if I were the one making an unreasonable scene. Your Shia family is bullying my daughter like this. Do you think our Grand Tutor's mansion has no one to stand up for us? A familiar voice came from behind the crowd, interrupting her harsh reprimand. It was father and mother. They were in a hurry, and mother was so anxious her forehead was covered in sweat. Seeing me, she rushed over and pulled me into her arms. Wanwan, in my past life, my parents were implicated because of me and died coughing up blood. Now, seeing them standing alive right in front of me, my eyes welled up, and tears streamed down my face. Mother, father, you must seek justice for Wanwan. The first thing I did after my rebirth was to send the mansion's guards to ride with haste and summon my parents, who were still on the road back to the capital. I didn't expect that after receiving the message, they would return so promptly. Father looked at Shizian with a livid expression. Herr Shi, are you trying to drive my daughter to her death with what you've done today? Since your Marquise's mansion cannot give me an explanation, I will have to enter the palace and ask His Majesty to pass judgment. The esteemed heir of Marquis Dingnan, fooling around with someone else, but using my daughter's name, is the legitimate daughter of the Grand Tutor's mansion, meant to be a stepping stone for your Marquis Dingnan's mansion? Marchioness Dingnan hurriedly explained. Grand Tutor, this is just a misunderstanding. Father sneered. Whether it is a misunderstanding or not, His Majesty will be the judge. Wanwan, let's go, back to the manor. Father took me and Mother and left with a flick of his sleeves. Back at the manor, Mother with red eyes said, we rushed back as soon as we got the news. Thank goodness, nothing happened. Otherwise my Wanwan's reputation would have been completely ruined. Father's face was livid. I originally thought Shizian came from a prestigious family and was a good match for Wanwan. I never expected him to be such a ridiculous person. This marriage with the house of Marquis Dingnan absolutely cannot happen. I nodded and said, Father, your daughter would rather die than marry a man like that. If I hadn't gone to the banquet today, I am afraid the rumor of me committing adultery would have spread all over the capital in less than half a day. How could I have possibly gone on living then? The news that at the house of Marquis Dingnan's birthday banquet, the heir had a secret affair with his cousin, but framed the Grand Tutor's legitimate daughter for it, spread throughout the capital in an instant. The next day, Marchioness Dingnan brought the heir to our door to personally apologize. Servants carried in gifts, a dazzling array that piled up and filled the whole courtyard. Marchioness Dingnan had dark circles under her eyes. She must not have slept well all night. She said to my mother with an apologetic smile, My lady, please calm your anger. It is all because Xian is thoughtless and made such a mistake. I have already punished him severely. As for that Yu Luo, we will also find someone to marry her off as soon as possible, and will definitely not let her stay in the residence to be an eyesore to Wanwan. Wanwan is the most magnanimous. I am sure she won't fuss over such a small matter. Don't you worry. Once she marries into the Marquise's residence, I will hand over all the household affairs for her to manage. She will be the matriarch of the house as soon as she steps through the door. This matter, let's just drop it and not mention it again. All right, Mother sneered. Watch your words, Madame Marquis. Our Wanwan has no matchmaker or betrothal gifts with your family. Where does this marriage come from? The Madame of Marquis Dingnan looked as if we were being unreasonable and wanted to argue further. I took a step forward, Madam. Why drop it and not mention it? I have no relationship whatsoever with your Marquise's residence. The one whose reputation is damaged now is you. What does it have to do with our Grand Tutor's residence? Xian looked at me, his eyes filled with dissatisfaction. Shen Wan, aren't you usually the most understanding? Why are you being so aggressive and refusing to let go now? Mother and I came to your door to offer our apologies, and we've also promised to marry Yu Luo off. Are you still not satisfied? Could it be that in the future, after you are married, if your husband wants to take a concubine, you'll object to that too? This is the behavior of a jealous woman. I looked at him with a scornful expression, who the young lord marries or takes as a concubine. What does that have to do with me? Although Wanwan is untalented, she would never marry someone of low moral character and tarnish the reputation of our Shen family for no reason. Young lord, please leave. Mother also looked at Marquise Dingnan. Marquise, please go back. I'll accept these apology gifts on behalf of Wanwan. Let's just treat it as the heir's apology for slandering Wanwan from now on. We are even. The two families originally only had the intention of discussing marriage, but after this incident, they became enemies and naturally would no longer associate with each other. Because of this matter, Shizian's reputation in the capital was completely ruined. A man who jokes about a girl's innocence, what good can he be? The wife of Marquis Dingnan was also in a fit of pique, swearing to find a well-born young lady from a prestigious family better than the Grand Tutor's legitimate daughter to match her own son. But this matter had long spread throughout the capital, which high-born noble lady would be willing to agree to marry into the family. As for that cousin Yu Luo, I heard she tried to hang herself in the residence, and after being rescued, Shi Zian threatened with his own death, finally obtaining the Marchioness's consent to take her into the residence as a concubine. Until right before the Lantern Festival, I went to the 100 Treasures Pavilion to get my mother's birthday gift, and saw Yu Luo again. She was dressed very gorgeously, acting all high and mighty with her maid, and was giving orders to the shop assistant. "This ruby headpiece set, I'll take it. Wrap it up and send it to the Marquis of Dingnan's residence." The assistant smiled cautiously and said, "Ma'am, this headpiece set was custom ordered by another customer. It is not for sale." Yu Luo snorted and said, "I am from the house of Marquis Dingnan. Whoever has reserved it, I'll just give them silver. This is the headpiece I chose for the palace banquet. If it is delayed, I am afraid you can't afford to compensate for it." The shop assistant was covered in a cold sweat. He looked up and saw me as if he'd seen his savior. "Miss Shen is here. This headpiece was ordered by the Grand Tutor's residence." When Yu Luo saw me, she was stunned for a moment, then smiled smugly. "So it is Miss Shen. This headpiece looks like a style worn by married women. Why is Miss Shen in such a hurry to dress like a wife when you are not even married yet? I heard that ever since the heir came to your door that day, not a single person has gone to the Shen family to propose marriage. It couldn't be that Miss Shen is playing hard to get, still fantasizing about marrying into the Marquis of Dingnan's residence. Could it?" She covered her mouth and laughed, looking at me smugly. I smiled faintly, touching the headpiece in the box, and looked up, saying, "I am afraid this headpiece doesn't match a concubine's status. If you take it back, wouldn't that be overstepping your bounds? Offending the future heir's wife probably wouldn't be good." Of course, the Marquis of Dingnan's residence doesn't seem like the type to care about such rules. I just wonder how much money you, as a concubine, can produce. This was custom made by me for 3,000 taels of silver. Jizian rushed in from outside and said resoundingly, "I'll pay 3,500 taels, shop assistant, wrap it up." Yu Luo was ecstatic. "My husband, you came at just the right time. Miss Shen is so full of herself, insisting on fighting me for this headpiece." There was a trace of unwillingness in Shizian's eyes. He just looked at me. "Wanwan, you like this headpiece. How about I buy it for you?" I watched him coldly. "No need, I appreciate the heir's kind intentions, but I can still afford this little bit of money." Shizian gritted his teeth. "Why must you be like this? 5,000 taels wrap up this headdress, and this sapphire hairpin, and this peony 100 treasure necklace. Wrap them all up." A young master dressed in brocade walked in, leaned against the counter, and threw down a stack of silver notes. "Whatever the heir of Marquis Dingnan offers, I'll add another 500 taels on top." I looked at the newcomer with delight. "Whoa, Chen, why are you back?" The newcomer was the heir of the Duke of Zhongguo, the Empress's own nephew, and also the infamous ringleader of trouble in the capital. I, along with Princess Zhaoyang, was the Grand Princess's study companion since childhood, while he was the Crown Prince's study companion. We studied together since we were small. He and I could be considered childhood sweethearts. A few years ago, the Empress, seeing how absurdly unruly he was, threw him to the borderlands to gain experience. I didn't expect him to actually be back. Wo Chen looked at me with disappointment. "If I hadn't heard you were being bullied, I wouldn't have come back so quickly. How are you so useless? You don't even know how to get even when you are bullied." My eyes welled up. "You came back for this." He looked smug. "Of course not. I came back to receive a reward. I, your young master, have achieved great military merit, and came back to have an audience with His Majesty, and to see who bullied you, by the way." After speaking, he looked at Shizian with a face full of disdain. "Herr Shi, do you still want this head ornament set? If you want it, make a bid. If not, get out of the way. Don't delay me from picking things out." Shizian's face was livid, and he left resentfully with Yu Luo. Huo Chen said hatefully, "Even trash like Shizian can bully you. You are always so sharp-tongued with me. How come you are so good-natured with others?" The person I am not even willing to bully. You let him bully you. You wait. I'll get revenge for you. I looked at him with a smile. I never thought the former head of the rascals who used to tease cats and dogs would now transform into a young general. Chen carried the head ornament set and returned to the Grand Tutor's mansion with me. He was extremely attentive in front of my mother, making her grin from ear to ear. He then took the opportunity to present an invitation, saying that for the Empress's palace banquet, he would personally escort me to and from the palace. This palace banquet, on the surface, was an invitation for everyone to enjoy the lanterns together before the Lantern Festival while the families were on break. In reality, the Empress wanted to find marriage prospects for her children. Huo Chen, riding a horse, escorted my mother and me into the palace, but then he disappeared without a trace. I was admiring the lanterns in the garden with a few noble ladies when I heard them discussing. I heard the heir of Marquis Dingnan is looking around everywhere, wanting to settle on the heir's wife. After such a scandal happened in the Marquis's mansion, he still has the nerve to look for a high-born noble lady. Do you guys know today, when he went into the palace, he even brought that woman along. What a disgrace. Today, when going into the palace, Shixian actually brought Yu Luo into the palace, only as a maidservant though. He doesn't have the guts to be so presumptuous at a palace banquet. Everyone knew what was going on. So naturally, no one paid any attention to Yu Luo. She stood there all alone without even a seat, and her eyes instantly reddened. She saw me sitting in the pavilion, chatting and laughing with the other noble ladies, and came over with a pitiful look on her face. Sister Shen, about that time I fought with you over the headpiece. Yu Luo apologizes. Please don't be angry, okay? His lordship said you've always been generous and probably wouldn't blame me. So please, sister, forgive me this once. Don't worry, sister. When you marry into the Marquis's manor, Yu Luo will definitely treat you with the utmost respect and won't compete with you for his favor. Her nonsensical rambling made the noble ladies beside me frown. I picked up my tea. Stop your nonsense. I have absolutely nothing to do with your lordship. If you say such implicating words again, don't blame me for being rude. I didn't want to talk to her anymore, so I ordered my maidservant to drive her away. But Shixian came over, his face full of accusation. Wanwan, what is your relationship with that Huo Chen? Your firm insistence on breaking the engagement that day, was it because of him? I thought you were a true lady from a noble family, but I never expected you were already secretly involved with another man. Why bother pretending to be so pure and aloof? How are you any different from Yu Luo? What face do you have to call her indecent? I didn't want to say another word to him. This is the palace after all. I turned to leave, but he grabbed me. Why aren't you refuting me? Don't tell me I've hit a nerve. And now you are angry out of shame. Suddenly, with a thump, Shixian was knocked to the ground by a punch, and the noble ladies nearby all screamed. Shixian, if I ever see you spouting nonsense and pestering Wanwan again, I'll beat you every single time I see you. It was Huo Chen. He pulled me behind him protectively and glared fiercely at Shixian on the ground. A despicable scoundrel like you actually has the gall to slander Wanwan, just because your Marquis Dingnan's mansion is shameless. You think everyone else is like you. Xixian got up and said angrily, Huo Chen, this is the Imperial Palace. What business is it of yours that I am talking to Wanwan? Don't tell me you think you can do whatever you want in the palace just because you are an imperial relative. Huo Chen looked at him and sneered. Whether or not I am doing as I please is for His Majesty to decide. You were pestering my fiancé, so what if I hit you? When the word fiancé came out, everyone was stunned. Shixian cried out, What fiancé? When did Wanwan become your fiancé? She was clearly in marriage discussions with me. I hurriedly cut him off. Shizi, watch your words. Our two families have not discussed marriage. Don't you dare ruin my reputation again. Huo Chen smiled smugly and looked at him with his arms crossed. Wanwan is my fiancé. His Majesty just approved it. Go ask if you don't believe me. Can't be helped. This young master is not like some people who only know how to coast by on their ancestors' merits. I, on the other hand, have military achievements. Just now, His Majesty has granted a marriage between me and Wanwan. Shizian, you stay away from my fiancé from now on. Otherwise, I'll smash the gate of your marquise's residence. After saying that, he took my hand and left. Only then did I find out that, as soon as Huo Chen entered the palace, he went to request an audience with the emperor and empress, saying he didn't want any rewards, only wished to marry me as his wife. Her Majesty the Empress smiled and agreed on the spot. She had always felt that Huo Chen was too playful and not serious enough. Now that he has established a career and is also going to marry a well-born lady of equal social standing, how could she possibly refuse? The emperor also repeatedly praised the idea, summoned my father on the spot, and bestowed the marriage. Huo Chen said with rare seriousness, Wanwan, let's see who dares to speak ill of you in the future. Don't worry, marry me. I will protect you for a lifetime, and not let anyone bully you. I smiled, pursing my lips. It was a rare sight to see him blush. You are the one who said it. So let me tell you in advance. If you want to marry me, you must be prepared to never take a concubine for your entire life. He smiled radiantly. Of course, Wanwan. When I achieve more military honors, I will request an imperial title for you. Every word I said when I was a child still counts. I will definitely make you a titled lady. At the palace banquet, the imperial decree for our marriage was indeed announced, and everyone's gazes on me instantly turned to envy. From then on, I not only became the young madam of the Duke of Zhengguo's mansion, but also one of the Empress's own people. The only ones ranked above me were the princesses and imperial consorts. As toasts were exchanged at the banquet, everyone was talking about the joke that was the Marquis of Dingnan's mansion. A perfectly good marriage arrangement had turned into this situation. How could it not be laughable? When the Marquis of Dingnan returned to the capital from his post and heard about this matter, his eyes turned red with anger. As soon as he entered the mansion, he dragged Shizian out and gave him a harsh beating. I went through so much trouble to arrange this marriage for you, yet you went and fooled around with another woman. To think you even tried to ruin Miss Shen's reputation. How did I raise an idiot like you? The Marchioness of Dingnan tried to persuade him earnestly that Shen Wan has the temper of a pampered young lady. Even if she married into our marquis mansion, she wouldn't be easy to get along with. Don't tell me Xian can't marry another noble lady besides her. I've never seen any young lady be so relentless. The Marquis of Dingnan slapped the Marchioness across the face. Idiot. He is truly the fine son you raised. Do you think your son has any good reputation left now? The Grand Tutor's mansion and the Duke Zhengguo's mansion are joined by marriage, offending Her Majesty the Empress. What future do you think Xian can still have? Marquis Dingnan was beating his chest and stamping his feet with regret. But what is done, and it is useless to regret it any further. The wedding between the Grand Tutor's mansion and the Duke Zhengguo's mansion was proceeding with great fanfare. The Empress even personally bestowed a pair of jade ruyi scepters as a betrothal gift, and the Duke Zhengguo's mansion also put on a grand display, with countless betrothal gifts being carried into the Grand Tutor's mansion. Before my wedding day, someone from Baibao Pavilion came to deliver the headpiece I had ordered. But the person who came was Shizian. His face was haggard. He was stunned for a moment seeing me in my new bride's attire, and said with a bitter smile, "It is all my fault that things have ended up like this." I took several steps back from him and asked, "I wonder how the young lord managed to sneak in. I am to be married in a few days, so it is not appropriate for us to meet again, lest it creates unnecessary misunderstandings." Jizian said in a low voice, "I came specifically to apologize. What I did back then was truly too much, to actually think of using your name to cover up the matter between me and Yu Luo. I originally thought that since I was going to marry you anyway, even if you were wronged, I could just make it up to you properly after you married into the Marquise's mansion. I never thought it would turn out like this." I looked at him, baffled. That matter is long in the past. Why must the young lord bring it up again? He murmured, "I only found out a few days ago that it was Yu Luo who drugged my wine, which is why I ended up messing around with her. I have already grounded her." In a few days, I will send her to the estate in the suburbs to prevent any more trouble in the future. I interrupted him. Heir apparent. What does the matter between you and Yu Luo have to do with me? Besides, if you two weren't in love, how could something like this happen? Since the mistake has been made, you should also take responsibility. Pushing it all onto a woman. What kind of man are you? There is really no need for you to tell me all this today. I am getting married in a couple of days. If the heir apparent is so inclined, you can come to the Duke Zhongguo's residence for a cup of wedding wine. After speaking, I turned and left, returning to the inner courtyard. 3 days later, with a grand dowry procession of 10 li, I married into the Duke Zhongguo's residence and officially became the heir apparent's wife. Wo Chen has to go to the border again for a while in half a year. Since we are newly married, the Emperor and Empress have permitted me to go with him. During this time, I was busy preparing for the trip to the border. By the time I was free, a scandal from the Marquis Dingnan's residence had already spread throughout the capital. The Marquise Dingnan couldn't find a suitable daughter-in-law, so she arranged to marry her niece from her own sister's family, wanting to bring her into the family as the heir apparent's wife. But not long after Qin Rushuang arrived in the capital, she had a conflict with Yu Luo at the welcome banquet in the Marquise's residence. When Yu Luo heard that Xie Zian was going to marry a principal wife, who was also his first cousin, she cried and threw a tantrum in the residence that Qin Rushuang is a cousin. Am I not one too? Why can I only be a concubine? If cousin wants to marry her, then he must also take me as an equal wife. The Marquise's wife had long despised her, and with her own niece marrying in, how could she possibly agree? As a result, on the day of the heir's wedding, Yu Luo caused a scene in the wedding hall. When the newlyweds were bowing in the ceremony, she rushed in, knelt on the ground, and begged tearfully, "My husband, I am already 3 months pregnant. If you do not grant me the position of an equal wife today, I will take my child and smash my head to death right here." Before Xie Zian could speak, Qin Rushuang had already slapped her across the face, turning vicious on the spot. I have never seen such an insolent concubine. Then go and smash yourself to death now. Yu Luo, committing fully to the act, stood up and smashed into the pillar. Seeing Yu Luo with her head covered in blood, Xie Zian's eyes turned red. He called for a doctor, and without even entering the bridal chamber, he stayed by Yu Luo's side all night. Qin Rushuang was so angry she smashed everything on the floor. But since she was already married, she could only grit her teeth and swallow this overwhelming grievance. The lady of Marquis Dingnan coaxed her all night and gave her an idea. The next day, she brought supplements and went to Yu Luo's courtyard, looking at Yu Luo and relenting. "If you, concubine, give birth to my husband's eldest son, I will grant you the position of an equal wife." Yu Luo finally got her wish and became triumphant again. Relying on her pregnancy, she pestered Xie Zian every day to stay in her courtyard. Qin Rushuang had been married for half a month, and Xie Zian had not yet consummated the marriage with her. She also kept her cool and actually paid her respects to her mother-in-law every morning and evening, being gentle and virtuous. Then, after Xie Zian finished his marriage leave, he was sent out on a business trip for a month. The moment he left the Marquise's residence, Qin Rushuang brought people and stormed into Yu Luo's courtyard, directly forcing a bowl of safflower soup down Yu Luo's mouth. Not only did she miscarry, but Yu Luo could also never bear children again because of the safflower soup. Qin Rushuang looked at her with a cold sneer. "I only let you be smug for a few days. Did you really think you could step on my head?" When Xie Zian returned, Yu Luo had long been tortured beyond recognition. Qin Rushuang looked at Xie Zian, who came to condemn her, and chuckled lightly. "Why is the heir so angry? You favored your concubine over your wife first. Do you really dare to divorce me? Our Qin family is not to be trifled with. The heir should also consider whether it is worth offending these relatives for a lowly concubine." The Dingnan Marquise's residence was in complete chaos. The Marchioness didn't feel sorry for some so-called eldest grandson at all. She married her fierce niece into the family precisely to suppress Yu Luo. Yuluo learned from the doctor's mouth that she could never bear children again. She cried and begged Shixian to stand up for her and divorce Qin Rushuang. But how could Shixian possibly divorce his wife for a son from a concubine? Yuluo's heart finally died. Only then did she understand that Shixian was completely unreliable. A banquet held by the Dingnan Marquise's residence. She drugged Qin Rushuang and also bribed a stableman to sneak into Qin Rushuang's courtyard. By the time everyone found out, Qin Rushuang had already lost her innocence. Qin Rushuang looked at Yuluo in the crowd and screamed, "It is all that bitch's fault." Yuluo was already half-crazed, laughing loudly. "So what if I harmed you? You killed my child, so I'll take your life." But even if it was found out that Yuluo had harmed her, Qin Rushuang's innocence was gone, and that night, she hanged herself with a white silk sash. Madame Qin heard her daughter was murdered, and the very next day she came charging to their door with a knife, demanding the Marquise of Dingnan to give her daughter's life back, causing a total uproar in the Marquise's mansion. Lord Qin even went as far as to impeach the Marquis of Dingnan in the imperial court. The Marquise's mansion was almost completely ruined overnight. Shixian slumped into a chair, muttering to himself. How did it come to this soon? The verdict came down. The emperor was beyond furious when he heard about such a matter, stripped the Marquis of Dingnan of his title on the spot, and told their whole family to get the hell back to their hometown. By the time I found out, it was the very day the Marquis of Dingnan's family was leaving the capital. Guo Chen and I happened to be leaving the capital that day, and our carriages passed each other at the city gate, number. Inside the carriage, Shixian had a wooden expression on his face, as if he had aged 10 years. Behind was Yuluo's coffin. She had been tortured in prison for several days by people bribed by Madame Qin, before finally being given a quick death. The Qin family brought Qin Rushuang back to their own home for burial. Yuluo had no father and no mother, so she could only follow Shixian back to his hometown for burial. A gust of wind blew past, lifting the carriage curtain. Shixian saw me and Huo Chen pressed tightly together, and his eyes, which had lit up for a moment, instantly dimmed. The two processions, one heading out of the city and the other into it, gradually drew further apart, their paths never to cross again.